Hello, folks. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. You're watching your favorite show, Roundtable Africa, and I'm Sekou Kele, your host. As usual, today we are discussing latest news from around Africa. And I'm here with my co-host, Edward Amara, the West African correspondent for Focus on Liberia. Brother Amara, welcome once again.
Thank you, Kelly. I also want to join you in warmly welcoming our diligent and enthusiastic viewers across the globe. We know this Africa, we need to discuss something African. So today's program is also going to be very fantastic. And we promise people to divulge news that may be of interest to Africans both home and abroad. So we all welcome their meaningful contribution, and the time spent with them will definitely going to be crucial.
Definitely. So as usual, what we do on this platform every week or every Wednesday, we discuss news that made headlines in Africa. But we like to be specific, is interesting news that made headlines, because there are a lot of news that actually made a headline, but we pick the most interesting ones and discuss them for our viewers. And then also your participation is very encouraged that you participate in this program by sending in your own comments so that we can read them and then also make some commentary on them. So Edward Amara, without wasting time, we'll take our first topic for today that we are discussing, Pan-African perspective on the Russian-Ukraine war. Before we will dissect this, we would like to watch a video first by Brother Umar Johnson, a Pan-African from the United States, what he said about this Ukraine conflict.
There's starvation in Ethiopia. How many of you Ukrainian-loving Negroes got that same energy for our Ethiopian brothers and sisters? How many of you Ukrainian-loving Negroes got the same energy for our Ethiopian brothers and sisters? Let's go to Sudan. Let's go to Sudan. What about our Sudanese brothers and sisters? They dealing with a crisis right now. They dealing with a crisis right now. How many of you Ukrainian-loving Negroes got the same energy for our Sudanic brothers and sisters, our Sudanese brothers and sisters? Let's keep on going. Didn't the United States bomb Somalia? Didn't the United States just bomb Somalia? Didn't the United States just bomb Somalia? So if United States just bombed Somalia, why I don't see you Negroes running around talking about we need to send aid and support to Somalia? So let me get this right. Let me get this right. You got black people sending money, raising money for the Ukraine, but you ain't did a damn thing for Ethiopia. You ain't did a damn thing for Sudan. You ain't did a damn thing for Somalia. You ain't did a damn thing for Haiti. When them Haitian Africans was at the border, some of y'all helped. Some of y'all helped. But we didn't see the outcry that we see right now. When our Haitian brothers and sisters was at the Mexican border, some of y'all helped, but we didn't see most of y'all being up in arms for the African Haitians at the border like you are for the Ukrainians. Look at you damn hypocrites. Look at you damn multicultural integrationists loving anything that ain't black. Look at you Negropeans. Look at you damn Negropeans. If Harriet Tubman was here, she would have shot most of you. If Harriet Tubman was here, she would have shot most of you. If Nat Turner was here, he would have put half you Negroes to sleep. You got all this energy for white people. You got all this energy for white people. You got all this energy for white people, but you ain't got the same energy for Africans who've been going through what the Ukrainians are going through for decades.
That's Brother Umar Johnson, a Pan-Africanist, a cultural activist from the United States. He's saying something very important. It's important for us to, first of all, reiterate what he said before we dissect the entire video. First, he mentioned how Africans are pouring out emotions. They are crying for Ukrainians. If you go on the social media, black people are campaigning. Some have changed their Facebook posts. We love Ukraine. We love Ukraine. There's no problem with that. But the question he's asking, do some of you black people cry for Somalia as well as you do for Ukraine? Do you cry for Ethiopia Ethiopia just had conflict, still in conflict. Thousands have died. Do you cry for Sudan? Do you cry for Nigeria, where thousands are killed every day in the north by terrorists? Do you cry that when America, as we speak, is bombing part of Africa, Somalia, and children and babies are dying? Are you even aware of it? So that's the question he's asking. So the first thing you notice here, Omar is pointing out what our African scholars have already pointed out since the 19th century, that Black people, we do not have economic problem or political problem as people will want us to think. We have cultural problem. The cultural problem, the inability for us to interpret our own reality is the issue. We interpret reality from the lens of other people. We interpret reality from the cultural perspective of other people. We even feel other people's pain and don't feel our own pains. This is an issue. And any people that have gone to that length to neglect themselves, they have violated the first rule of nature, which is self-preservation. And when you violate the first rule of nature, you will be eliminated by nature. So there is something fundamentally wrong in the way we perceive reality. The way even our leader approach foreign policy, they go by the popular talk. They go by what the media shows. They go by what Western media show. And Western media is there to run propaganda to protect the West. They don't dare to protect you. Facebook is one example. Facebook has a hate speech rule that you are not allowed to put anything on Facebook that will be a potential target or harm to people. But during the Ukrainian-Russian war, they said they relaxed the law. They allow you now to make a hate speech against Russian soldier to be killed anywhere. That tells you that when they say something is legal or illegal, it doesn't mean it's right. It only means how it protects the white man's interest. Do Black people feel for Black people? When people die in Ghana, Nigeria, Mali, do you feel it in Sierra Leone and Liberia? Do you protest? Do you cry? Why don't you feel the pain? Because there's something wrong with your consciousness. This is what Umar is trying to point out. And it goes from the ordinary people to the political elite, to the religious elite, down to all our leaders. Everyone is having this problem. Politicians make decisions on the global stage. It's based on the emotions of white people. If you see how they make decisions, it's based on what European think. It's never on how African think. If you look at African Union, they only behave what European think. It's not what the ordinary African think on the street, down to our political leader, our presidents. They do not think about the public opinion of their people. It doesn't matter to them. They govern by what the West says. And this is dangerous, people. It's dangerous. You see what the Europeans have done? You see the outpouring of emotion and love for Ukraine. Some of the journalists didn't even hide the racism. They said they are killing blue-eyed and blonde-haired and white Ukrainians. That should call for concern. So their issue is not that human beings are being killed, but a specific human type has been killed, which look like them. Why don't we feel the same sentiment? Why is it that when Chinese die, Chinese feel it? When Indians die, Indians feel it. When Africans die, Africans don't feel it. Don't you see something is wrong? Fundamentally wrong with our culture, fundamentally wrong with our culture, even our religion, fundamentally wrong with our religious beliefs, and something fundamentally wrong with the way we approach the reality of the world. If we don't change that, that's where our problem is. The deep root of our problem is right there before you. The cultural problem of Black people. If it is not solved, I'm sorry. You can solve the economic and political problem. It's just like you put a gold and diamond on the back of a camel, and the camel doesn't even know the value of those things. You can come in, Edward.
Yeah, thank you. I just listen keenly to you. I want to start from where he ended. I think I am just one of the few victims. The other time, I carefully wrote an article describing the evil nature of Vladimir Putin, then maybe trying to expose some of his potential that may likely create havoc into the world should he be confronted on the soil of Ukraine because of the evil he's unleashing or is leashing on Ukraine. I think Facebook blocked that my post, And they also blocked me. They told me that I would not be able to, nobody will be able to peruse or see my posting in the next 30 days because I have violated their community rules. But being that they have seen the kind of vindictive nature of Vladimir Putin and the destruction that he's causing in Ukraine, they decided finally to send an apologetic message and saying that they misunderstood me, and so therefore my post can now go on live and they are sorry for any inconvenience. But that only came in when they decided to say that no, Vladimir Putin, what he's doing is beyond expectation, is unhuman, is disconnected reality, and let us try to expose evil nature, and we should allow anybody. But I can understand it. Okay, having established that, you spoke about a lot of things and also keenly listened to that robust gentleman who is sounding deeply annoyed, maybe because of Africans' volition to contribute financially and even physically in helping to solve the Ukraine war. Maybe morally we can accept it, that is a very good thing. But he's watching at this as a Pan-African, from the Pan-African ideology or their perspective, and trying to relate it to the wrong things that are actually happening into Africa. Then Africans are reluctant to comment on it, or not even publicly involved into it. The watch like what is happening in Tigray, that is in Ethiopia. You think about Somalia, Sudan. He mentioned a lot of things that are actually look eye-catchy, and one can never deny that reality, except if you want to be disconnected with the fact. But let's watch at it. What is actually going into Africa, and what is the difference between the Ukraine-Russian war and that was what is happening to Africa? He mentioned something like Nigeria. It's a very, it's a good epitome of example. But when you watch at Nigeria, we are seeing Boko Haram creating certain havoc into Nigeria, maybe citizens within their own state wanting to be emancipated. And since this type of emancipation, and they are seeing the Niger Delta or the Biafra want to seek for what? For their right, they are seeing Boko Haram, other people. It's just a kind of sovereignty that one can condemn, but their own cannot be compared to the scale that is going on. I'm not trying to criticize, I'm just trying to lay the foundation of certain things. You watch at Somalia, it's an internal conflict, though America involved because of the activities of Al-Shabaab. Then you watch at Tigray, it's another internal conflict. When we watch at Russia, we are seeing an invasion. I don't think we may describe what is happening in Somalia as an invasion from the side of the US, but the US is not going there to control, rather trying to put a stop to the activities of terrorism going on. We are seeing in Ethiopia, I mean in Somalia and in Ukraine, one country invading another one to have a total control by that sovereignty. And morally, we have never seen Africans on social media. The Africans are actually on social media condemning the act. But our society is not exposed. It's not sophisticated. Not all crimes that are committed into Africa that are exposed today on television. Unlike what is happening into Ukraine, just a drop of anything, you will see it on media. You are serving, in fact, almost all Western media concentration is now on Ukraine. Everything about it, because all of our Western, our exposure to Western reality are actually coming from the Western world. India's thing that happening into Africa. So you first try to accept it from that perspective. And I wouldn't want to too much believe with the ideology that Africans are not condemning what is happening into our African countries. They are. Let's accept reality. If you get on social media, the scale is there. Even what is happening in Ethiopia, almost every African is condemning it. But the difference between the Ukraine war, you are not seeing Ethiopia. Well, I think when Ethiopia invaded Eritrea on that border, everybody denounced it. But we're watching at the scale and the manner in which it is happening. I don't think whether what is happening today in Ethiopia, like Mekelle, that is the capital city of Tigray region, we are actually seeing Ethiopia destroying life and property over there. But we almost consider it to be something internal. So even if Africans are to be involved into such thing, it may not be robust, it may not be on the scale of that. But let us assume that on the case of Ukraine, it's an exposed one, it's something that we must condemn it in as much as possible. But the scale of condemnation cannot be as compared to what is happening into Africa because of ideological differences, maybe because of internal sovereignty. But in what is happening today in Ukraine is an invasion on another man's land when you want to forcefully establish your rule. They want to colonize. I'm not saying maybe politically we are still colonized in Africa because economically we are not independent. Politically we may claim independence, but we cannot do anything outside the Western premises. However, we are not seeing any Western nation shilling bomb on us. That's happening today in Ukraine. So it is high time we also observe those things. He also pointed out something that was very good. None of us is willing to take up an ammunition. Say, okay, let us go into Ethiopia and fight the Tigray people against Ethiopians, or fight the Ethiopians against the Tigray. You find it very difficult because these are brothers fighting against brothers. Maybe what Africans can only do into this situation here is to actually condemn the act. But if Africans like Nigerians vowing to go and help into Ethiopia, into Ukraine, I can definitely refer them. Go and fight against Aswa. Go and fight against ISIL. Go and fight against Boko Haram. Go and fight against the Niger movement, the movement for the emancipation of the Niger Delta. Go and emancipate yourself instead of going to Ukraine. Maybe we are just doing. Then Western world, we shouldn't come, and irrespective of how evil people are, they have certain things that are actually good to them. We have seen some meaningful contribution that are actually making in world challenge in backward country Africa. They are helping Somalia, they are helping Ethiopia, we are all seeing these things. We should watch at it on that side, and we should understand that the one in Ukraine is a bit different from what is happening into all of those places that he actually commented on.
Yes, I think I differ with you a little bit on the way you kind of laid out, saying that African conflict, they are internal, and what is happening between Russia and Ukraine is kind of somehow international. Well, I think I would like to point out that this is a European conflict. The Russia-Ukraine war is a European conflict. It's happening within the continent of Europe, between Europeans, between two countries that were once one country, okay? So they speak the same language. Majority of people in Ukraine speak Russian, so have the same culture. They are Eastern Europeans. And like I said earlier, they were one country. They just got separated by treaty, by a certain kind of agreement they had after World War II. So there is some sort of a relationship between them. That's why Russia can even say you are not allowed to join certain international organization, or you are not allowed to do this. And then that treaty holds because there's some level of relationship between those countries. So this is the same thing here. What we are trying to point out here is that whenever there is a European conflict, it becomes global concern, and Africans are involved. Africans' energy is tailored towards that war. Africans tailor all their energy, their intellectual power, and everything, they tailor it towards that conflict. But when there is a conflict on the African continent, okay, that concerns our people, we do not see as much invested energy, whether condemnation or whatever you want to call it. But we don't see a lot of invested, even our media houses don't take it. In Sierra Leone, where you are, or somewhere in Liberia, how many times you read a newspaper cover that discusses Congo, that discusses some of the things happening around the continent, some deep conflict. Sometimes you have to, maybe Western media, but you don't even, our own media within the continent does not even discuss our issues. Okay, people can be dying in Congo, and they are advertising some part of Africa, people don't even know about it. So our media and our journalists also are not really focusing on things that concerns the continent. So our
You're
people
not in Africa, differ with that. Let's be honest to our African creativity, our writers. I'm telling you something. We have journalists who are investigative journalists. They're exposing things like that. I think what is actually lacking in Africa is that Africa reading culture. I know if you get into certain blogs, I think you have been following my pages here and you have been seeing some of those news that come up with. African writers are there exposing things that are happening into Africa.
They have not. I will give you an example. When they call the Ukrainian invasion, all African media use the word invasion. China uses the word special military operation. I'm coming now. There's a strategic reason and politics. You don't just use language that other people use just because you speak English. There should be a language of diplomacy. There's a language of your liberation. There's a language that follow your ideology. Why did Europeans say invasion and Africa say invasion? Can you tell me why?
Well, when Europeans said invasion, Africans say invasion, because invasion is just like an aggressive movement on a soil or another person's property, land, or country that does not belong to you. And you want to colonize it or to make it your own, to conquer it through act of war, any type of violence. And that is the exact thing that is going on. So you may not watch at the conflict into Nigeria, then you call it an invasion. You may not watch the conflict into Ethiopia, call it an invasion. You may not watch the conflict into Somalia and call it an invasion. Maybe they use the right word at the right time for the right purpose and to describe the right thing, because what Russia is doing is an encroachment, is an invasion, is violation. That is the fact. That is reality. We need to accept reality. Maybe move to condemn into our own African perspective. Maybe he actually talking about the volume. If you tell me about the volume, I will accept it. The volume of African condemning the conflict in Ukraine, Russia, is about the conflict, the Russia invasion of Ukraine is higher than the type of volume of Africans condemning what is happening into Ethiopia. As I rightly stated initially, even the evils that have been perpetually committed into Africa, like in the Congo, Somalia, Sudan, you talk about all of Ethiopia, it is not being exposed, because what I'd like to happen in Mikele, except you have Western journalists or people with sophisticated cameras to expose those things. Even in Mali, villages are being killed, people are being born alive. We hardly see these things because the nature is not being exposed. Our African society is still screwed. It is unsophisticated. Crimes are happening. We are unable to see them. Maybe most of those things, each time we see queer news on social media, everybody will tend to condemn it. So there are times when you do not see, you do not condemn. And even those places where those injustices states are happening, they are unexposed, they are unreachable. Some crimes even happen in Nigeria. Look at Nigeria, it's a very vast state. Some areas they even have networks, very difficult. I can tell you for reality that certain crimes happen into Nigeria. It may even take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months before ever those things come out, because it is very unreachable. Even when they are listening to African journalists are actually hardworking, you will listen to them. Sometimes they will even call on BBC, and that person network will definitely be lost. I think our society is very unsophisticated, all coming out of political blunder. But if our society we are exposed, and Western or what electronics and whatsoever thing like cell phone network reaching over there, maybe some of these things will have come out, and we can have the right to condemn it. Trust me, the volume is very high. It is because of the exposed nature of where it is happening into the Eastern Europe. What normally all of those crimes that happen into Liberia and in Guinea and including Sierra Leone, if how many people are seeing it? Some people do not even have access to what they call to YouTube or social media. So some people in fact except expose it to them.
Yeah,
so
right.
That is it.
We'll have to move to the next point, but you are just making my point that the information on the continent is not exposed enough. That our people are more focused on what come out of Europe, because exactly. The media coverage in Europe is now dominating our media. So whatever is said in Europe, we regurgitate the same words, and that is not part. That's not a way to do it. In India, for example, they are not covering the Ukraine conflict the way Europeans do. The Chinese are not covering it the way we do. Why do we have to cover it the way Europeans do? It's because we think the way they think is the right thing. If America bombs Somalia, it's not an invasion, you said. If a terrorist group have been armed with European arms and want to take over half of Nigeria, it's not an invasion. And they are the same people, because they are they are from the same country. So Russia and Ukrainians are not the same people. If Azawad or people from North Africa, okay, who are a different race, are armed, and then they are in cahoot with France, and they are trying to take over Mali, it's not an invasion. So for me, I think that's not an honest way to approach it. I believe the Africans have to narrate their own story from the African perspective. I think the Europeans, because this is what happened, that's how they gave Mali on sanction, is what France says something, and ECOWAS picked it up, and then they sanctioned Mali unjustifiably. When European Union says something, African Union picks it up. When a France president or a US president says something, African leader picked it up. If they say African population is high, Africans say our population is high. If they say African problem is because they have not devalued their currency. Africans say our problem is because we have not devalued our currency. When have you ever seen a direct knowledge from Africans? What I mean by the intellectual divorce from the West and trying to approach things from the African perspective. That's not happening, brother. No matter how you want to bend it, even the books you're talking about writing, if you read most books written by African scholars, very few, but majority, they are quoting, they are just repeating what Europeans have said. They are not saying nothing new. Nothing new I've seen. Very few of them. And those of them that have done it to think outside the European box, they have been sanctioned by our society. They have been regarded as extremists in their views. When you speak like the European and think like them and approach the Russia conflict the way they approach it, then you are considered civilized and educated and intellectual. This is the issue. The Chinese are educated. They are smart enough not to call it an invasion. They call it special military operation. They are not stupid. The Indians know why they call it that way. Why do we have to call it the way Europeans call it? Don't you know that Europeans, Amara, before I close on this, the enslavement of black people, they still call it slave trade. And all your schools in Africa, you call it slave trade. Was there any slave trade? No. There was enslavement of black people. But because Europeans call it slave trade, in all your books, you call it slave trade. Because Europeans minimize the danger. They minimize your suffering. And you also try to accept it that way. You have not been able to question it and then reject it and portray it in your own way. That's all I'm saying.
Anyway, we may go before, but I can tell you China and India we never condemn because they still have trade ties with Russia. They wouldn't want to be put in a split wood, not knowing where to take. So that is why they are very careful in choosing their wars. Thank you.
All right. So that brings us to the second discussion. Somaliland's leader appeal for international recognition. This territory called Somaliland. I used to always struggle between Somalia that we know and this place, this geographical location called Somaliland. I got to know that it's not really Somalia itself, even if it was part, but they are trying to carve their own nation, I think in between Ethiopia and somewhere there. Tell us where this Somaliland is even located.
Oh, thank you. I think when we talk about Somalia and Somaliland, Somalia, the capital city is Mogadishu. It's one of, in fact, when I was young, let me just say, when I was in my secondary school, it's one of the few names I really love to pronounce, especially the Horn of Africa. And Somalia and Somaliland, by virtue of fact, they are the same countries, or it's just one country. But as we are saying, it is because of religious mentality, clan. In Somalia, they deal with what they call clan. That is why most of their election is based on clan. So Somalia and Somaliland, Somalia and Somalia, Puntland, Hargeisa, other things. In Mogadishu, where you have Somalia, sharing border with Kenya, like Mombasa, very close there, and we have seen Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab on several occasions coming into it. So I'm just saying they are the same people, but it is because of the political volatile situation in Somalia itself. And the country is so big to an extent that it has become ungovernable. Religious sentiment. And when people see themselves as one in time of clan, because we have what we call their own taboo. Normally that place them together, that regard them as one. They may be part and parcel of the same country, but they have certain cultural right, belief in terms of religion, like what they have the Sunni, the Shia, other Muslims. And they are watching a place like Somalia that is involved into religious conflict, where one person believes that this should be like a Sharia state, another person believes that this should be like a secular state. And since Somalia is in the Horn of Africa, surrounded by places like Ethiopia, you talk about Uganda, Kenya, and other places. That is why even when you are in Ethiopia, they have what they call Ethiopian Somalians and Somalian Ethiopians. And when you talk about those Ethiopian Somalians, they are Christians. So when you watch at Somalia, it's a breakaway. Somaliland is a breakaway fashion from Somalia. The world did not recognize it. But it's because, as I rightly stated, it's a volatile country infected with religious war, and Somaliland think that they can successfully organize their own clan, become independent, and wave themselves out of the burden of Somaliland itself. They have been suffering from starvation, especially when there is drought, famine. The majority of their population is suffering from marasmus and kwashiorkor. If you watch at the country, its population, in fact, they believe in pastoral, raising of animals. And many people drive over there. Most of their cattle are dying. They are faced with famine, drought, disease. But on the relative key, when it comes to political situation, they are more stable. They have declared themselves independent for Somalia except, but the international community did not recognize them. But since then, these folks have been living on their own. They have a president on their own. But normally, in terms of electoral process over there, it is very difficult for it to go without fraud, because they need a strong leader, one who can stand in the face of Somalia itself without giving down, who can maintain the territorial independence, its sovereignty, and may not want to be invaded. We're all seeing, like, look at Ethiopia and Eritrea. It took Tanzania and Zanzibar. Then we are all watching at this thing here. So it came into existence because of the political volatile situation into Somalia. The country is so big. You are even watching just the way Biafra is asking today that they should become independent of Nigeria. One of the arguments is that Nigeria is so large, a federation is very good over there, but the population is so high, and there are certain laws that are even being constituted maybe by the state, by the federal government or even those state government, that people are not even okay with the tradition and culture of these people. So if you want to rule me, you should understand my culture. So these are some of the challenges that is happening. And now they were asking for independence. Internationally, they have declared themselves semi-independent state, but they want international recognition, because when you watch even on the map of Africa, Somalia is still being carved out of, is still be recognized. Somalia is still being recognized as Somalia, and even their flag is not recognized. Their president is not recognized on international level. So they are saying now, if we have managed to achieve independence on our own, being declared, we have managed to politically structure ourselves, and we have managed to demarcate ourselves in type of geographical region. We have a president. And one thing about having a government is like when you have a central government where you coerce people to obey you and recognize your authority, and these people have been recognized. So the best thing the international community to do is to recognize our independence. Do you want us to be part of Somalia, where we shall be attacked by Al-Shabaab, killed without any central government? And even the government in Somalia today, let us accept it. It's only international funded, without the like of maybe Ethiopia governing them, Kenya governing them, USA. By this time, Al-Shabaab should have run it down. These people are stable.
Yeah, that's really, really, really sad. It's very difficult. It's a dilemma here that, we cannot just call it black and white situation, because these people are right in one way, that they want their independence. They do not want to be part of a failed state that continue to terrorize the citizens. With low economic progress, life in Ethiopia is very cheap, and terrorism everywhere. So they are right to say, look, we want to break away and we want to, be our own stable region. So, but in another way also, that will weaken, the area, because breaking away will set precedent for other breakaway regions in that area. Okay, if they successfully break away, then Tigray want to follow, then other people want to follow. South Sudan, we already see, have gone out of the Sudan, and we are even hearing that there's a part of Sudan also that don't want to be part of Sudan. The Nuba Mountains people in the Nuba Mountains, they don't want to be they don't want to be part of Sudan. So Biafra is there, the Oduduwa is there. A lot of things are happening. So if we allow all this secession to survive, Africa in the end would become a joke or laughing stock.
You watch YouTube, like Cameroon, what is happening over there?
Cameroon, the French Cameroon, the Amazonians, the Amazonian one. So they are basing their own secession based not on clan this time, not on religion this time, based on colonial language. to say, oh, we speak this colonial language and you speak that colonial language. So we want to break away. I say, okay, let's even get rid of all the both colonial language and see how you're going to break away now. Let's institute an African language. So you see, there's a lot. I don't think this secession is a solution to African political crisis. I think integration is the solution. And African leaders are playing with fire, because if this integration, greater integration, if it doesn't work, the opposite will happen, which is secessionists. So if you don't integrate and build a very powerful state that cannot be break up, you expect there will be breakup. Even these little breakaway regions, they are not necessarily going to be in peace. They are going to have other conflict again later, and they want to break away. So at the end of the day, Africa will now become a very unstable region, unstable part of the world. And that will give opportunity to this superpower to come and exploit, because it's not a peaceful region. There is no stable government. Everything is fragile. So I think African Union should look into this. Somalia needs to work hard, or if they cannot make it, then the African Union should take it over and see what they can do with it before, before El Shabaab takes over that place, become a terrorist hub. You see, it's not really conducive. So for me, really, I don't have an opinion on that. I understand their struggle. They don't want to be part of Somalia, but also I don't want to support any ideology that calls for secession from any country in Africa. We already have as much problems. So that's my take, Edward.
Yeah, but we can watch at it, because you watch at Somalia itself is politically volatile. And since in the to around 2010 or below that, when Somaliland broke away from Somalia, they have managed to sustain some amount of stability. And the citizens of Somaliland do not have any recognized government on international level, but they have managed to navigate themselves out of those trouble. And as you rightly stated, we should not encourage secession into Africa, because it will bring political instability, break away of government, and maybe more war will be introduced into the continent, because there are certain belligerent leaders who may not allow you to break away. Just like what is happening today in Spain, you are seeing the Catalan, they want to break away from from the main government in Spain, and they want to create Barcelona as their main city, and they have refused because they want to declare Catalonia as a country on their own. So having underscored that, maybe we need to have an African government that should be an amalgamated one. Because like what is happening into Ethiopia today, one people faction feel that they are being deprived of the government, and since we are large enough to become a country on our own, then let us go ahead and break away. African countries need to come together. Like most of those countries, because I believe in the federation, you have tools, you have the state government, or you have the state legislation, then you also have the federal legislation. You have all of those things. Maybe people should be representing themselves, like the list system. Africa need to revisit the system, but democracy is not really helping into such thing. Maybe we should found a government that can address those issues, type of system of governance that can address it, because those people are not feeling that they are part and parcel of the system. They just feel that the mentality of these people are driving them away. So if I cannot be part of the system, let me break away. So if you cannot stop the game, join the game. Since they cannot stop those people living away, and those people also cannot successfully live there, I think they need to come back on the drawing table, maybe provide a solution that may provide something better for Africa.
Well, your last point there is very important, because that's why I always say, we should not copy and paste institutions. What works in China cannot work in Africa. Not necessarily work. What works, if you say you want to be an African communist, apply the Chinese model of communism in Africa, you will meet resistance. If you think you want to become a social democrat and pick it up exactly how you see it in the West and you bring it to Africa, it might not work. Why? Because we are different people. Our ethnic diversity, our religious diversity is different. You see, when you go to Germany, all Germans speak German, and most of them belong to the same faith, and probably those that are liberal, they are all having some kind of similar sentiment. But when you come to a little country like Liberia, we don't have the same religion. We don't speak the same language. Besides the colonial language, English, we don't come from the same ethnic group. We might have even different religion. So if you want to bring a system of governance in that country, you need to think of the reality, the cultural reality of that country, and create a unique system that works. If you copy and paste institutions, you will find out that it will not work perfectly as you want. That's exactly what's happening in Somaliland, happening in Ethiopia, happening in Nigeria. They just copy and paste the institutions, and they find out that other regions in their country are not feeling it. They don't feel part of the government. They don't feel part of the nation. So they want to break away. So there has to, somehow we need to come and create an African democracy that is inclusive, that addresses the issue of tribe, that addresses the issue of religious differences, that addresses all the little things that we have, problem we have from the colonial era, so that we can have an umbrella system, inclusive way of governing ourselves, so that there won't be all this problem. But if we keep putting one person there, as soon as he gets there, he surrounds himself with his people from his tribe, or he surrounds himself with people from his religion, we will keep having conflict. That is the fact. So we'll take a short break. When we come back, we have something interesting to discuss. We'll go straight to Nigeria when we come back. So please don't go away. You're watching Focus on Liberia. This is our program, Roundtable Africa. I'm here with Edward Amara, my co-host, and we are discussing news that made headlines headlines in Africa. And now we are going to Nigeria, where the news there is that former Boko Haram militant to be integrated into the society. They call them repentant Boko Haram people. So here we have a problem, Edward. This is exactly what we were talking about. This kind of, what kind of name do you give African government? I don't know, there should be a name. You know, they are not democratic. Let's go far away. These are not democratic institutions. We have, I don't know, I don't know. There has to be a name. Maybe you can come up with a name. But I think there should be a name for the kind of government we have in Africa. It's like when you elect a Muhammadu Buhari to be president, he now sees Nigeria through the lens of his Muhammadu Buharism. That is his own immediate village and culture and religion. He thinks that's how all Nigerians think and feel. So when he does anything in the country, he doesn't feel that the part of a section or last section of the country will feel suspicious and they might revolt. He doesn't have that sentiment. And the institutions also are not there to check whether the president is doing something very wrong. We are dealing here with Boko Haram members, people that were captured on front lines, people that were caught in terrorism act, people that have killed little babies that bomb churches and mosques, people that have killed, bomb marketplaces. You round them up, put them in a very beautiful hotel, give them food and water, and you say they are repented, quote unquote repented. I said we are dealing with a religious institution. This is a state that's supposed to move with justice now. A state is talking about quote unquote repentant Boko Haram. So the so-called repentant Boko Haram members are now integrated into the society. Why? Some people say because the president is a Muslim and the Boko Haram are Muslim. So he is a sympathizer. He's sympathetic towards them. Why? Some people say because they are from his Fulani ethnic group. So he feels that he has to protect his people, forgetting half of Nigeria is not Muslim, half is not Fulani. Even if they were, is that justice? Is that the rule of law? Is that how a state that wants to fight for its own independence to establish the rule of law and justice and protection of all citizens, is that how the state should operate? Should we now have repentant people, armed robbers? Should we also have repentant bandits? Should we also have repentant rapists? Should we also have repentant, how they call it, these Biafra people, and integrate them into the society? Buhari is making a great mistake. And this is where the fall of Nigeria is going to start. These people were supposed to be prosecuted, taken before the law, and they will be sentenced. They are not supposed to be integrated to any society. They are spies. Some of them I heard they have been reintegrated into the military and they become spies for the Boko Haram. That's why Nigeria has not been able to defeat Boko Haram. Adwa, when you see some of what we are saying, that religion is a problem for Africa, and people think we are making we are generalizing. This is one of it. This man is running a country that is both Muslim, Christian, and full of traditional believer, but he's running Nigeria as if it's an Islamic state. Nigeria is now Nigeria is now being destabilized by Boko Haram on all fronts in the north and north central. They have even come to the middle belt. A lot of things happening. Recently, Buhari has shown to the people that he's some kind of a fanatic. I don't know. He has even donated, I don't know, $1 million to Afghanistan for their ongoing crisis. While Nigerians displaced by Boko Haram are living in the internal displaced camp all over the country. They don't have food and water. Where are we with this country, Nigeria, where religion is destroying it, with this Boko Haram issue, and see the response? I will close with this, Edward. Recently, we heard that Qatar, I don't know, is it Qatar or Bahrain or one of these countries have been able to help. Their intelligence officer have been able to collaborate with Nigeria to publish the name of over 200 financiers of Boko Haram that live in Nigeria. They are members of government and members of parliament. They are the ones that are financing Boko Haram. Do you know Buhari government refused to publish the names of these people? You take it from there.
Oh, thank you very much. I think you made some brilliant point that I really like to emphasize on. In the first place, let us accept the fact that Buhari was elected in 2014 with the belief that he's going to end Boko Haram. And as you rightly stated, the problem of Africa is surrounded around religion. Our religious ideology is not helping the country. The Muslim and Christian mentality is creating serious problem than solution ever we thought they would have preferred to the continent of Africa. It was being kind of popularly viewed that it is because Goodluck Jonathan is a Christian. That is why Boko Haram invaded Nigeria. Buhari came. And he promised them that in the space of 3 months' time, he's going to end Boko Haram. They use it as a pretext to even attack as far as Lagos. Bombing some houses, seizing people to clearly send a message that Boko Haram was not in any direct contact with the so-called Buhari, who was elected on that particular ticket. Then that was like people were carried with the notion that the war in Nigeria can only be solved by another person who has the same religious faith, not knowing that religion has actually created more problem than the solution it would have solved. Then we are watching a kind of dangerous set of people, a radicalized, negatively radicalized people who believe in execution, killing, raping, acts on earth, destruction of houses through burning. They have destroyed life and property, negatively radicalized, and some of them even see a kind of pandemonium society as their normal way of behaving, because their brains are all chaotic, and they think that any normal situation is not anything that should be pampered. Now, Buhari, a Fulani by tribe, came into existence. And even we are only watching at Boko Haram, but we should also understand about what is happening with the Fulani herdsmen. In Borno, Benin, and other states into Nigeria, on a daily basis, they are terrorizing this place. Buhari was charged with the responsibility to come to end all of this negative development into Nigeria. Unfortunately, everything has been exacerbated under his system. I am thinking that Buharism has actually failed Nigeria. And if you want to integrate a terrorist into a society, we are normal people are, that person brain is fused. And the person does not believe in normality. And if you want to place him under a normal situation, you cannot just come. I was thinking that if these people have actually presented themselves to be former fighters of Boko Haram, under justification, they should have a kind of psychosocial institution where they will take long time, maybe 5, 6, 10 years, to first normalize themselves, to de-radicalize them, because they were already radicalized. They need to de-radicalize them. Maybe give them, let them be given what? Life-saving skills. They should be taught, because you cannot just, because let us just say, like, Australian prisons are now being known as correctional centers, where if you have a criminal, a rapist, or whatsoever, if that person has been sent to prison, what they do, the correctional center, instead of naming in a prison, they are going to be taught a particular life skill. So when that person comes out, he or she will be employed, whether a carpenter, whatsoever job that you may have learned into that particular correctional center. When you are out, you are going to be like, you are going out to be what? Kind of, you are now independent. And at the same time, you have now that ability to at least live on your own without being a liability to the state. And most of those guys who we are radicalized, or who are even now radicalized, are liability to the state. So to integrate a person who has been used to raping, killing, arson act, destruction of life and property, taking property from people by the barrel, just come, let us reintegrate them without any sustainable livelihood, it's not going to create the situation. In fact, they already have they have connections. And mind you, with the sophistication of our country today, of our nation, where you have mobile network, in fact, those people can easily serve as a contact point to their brothers. Because once a rebel is always a rebel. Once a terrorist is always a terrorist. It's a failed system. What the government should be doing, I'm not saying amnesty is not good, but there are certain people, it is not worth to give them amnesty. Even the Bible says it. Maybe there are certain, we all are Christians, some of we are Christians, some of them, but they have what they call gross sin. Certain sins, one should not go unpunished for them. So why are they coming to radicalize, to what? Integrate people who have been used to destruction? I think the system will create more problem than solution. And those guys are going to serve as leadway into the society. The Nigerian government should think twice. As you rightly stated, we don't know what type of name to give our African government. Maybe their brains are on holiday. Because if your government brain is with him or her, definitely your brains are on holiday. Because they should have understood the background of those people. But that is why they said, always study the character of somebody so that you cannot be confused with his wording. They are just confused because those guys are saying, we have repented, we will not do this, that. You just send them back into the society and they start to face the same struggle they were. There is no excuse. They will definitely go ahead.
Do you think this is due to incompetence, or do you associate this action of Buhari to incompetence, or is it because of a religious or tribal sentiment?
There is political sentiment in it. I wouldn't want to relate it too much to religion, because if you are talking about religion, trust me, Boko Haram is targeting both Muslims, Christians, and non-Muslim. Because any Muslim fail to follow their ideology, you are definitely a target to them. Everything is centered around political ideology. Because even the areas where Boko Haram is now terrorizing today are also part of parcel of Nigerian voters. And they have sympathizers. Maybe they want to buy time and facilitate more vote coming from them. Because if they have started persecuting people, trust me, as you rightly stated, when Qatar or promised to publish some of those names in line with Nigeria, if those names can be published, a lot of stakeholders into Nigeria will risk being arrested. And this particular government will become unpopular, and maybe they can even risk losing the vote of people who are sponsoring those things. They could be Christians, they could be Muslims, because these guys, they should not be linked directly. They are using religion, but their target is not religious limited. Be you a Christian, be you a Muslim, be you an atheist or African traditional mentality or religious person, you can easily be killed by them. But this is more part of political sentiment. It's a political games. They really want to maintain their support. That is why you are seeing, not that Buhari is not aware of what the herdsmen are doing. He knows. They are causing havoc, killing people, destroying property. Even people who are suffering throughout the night, they can even brush down their cassava farms, rice, and whatsoever thing. But he will never come out to condemn those people. Why do you think that? It is because of religion? No, political gain. And he knows the corrupt implantation that he has done into his country. He wouldn't want somebody from the blues to come and take over that battle. Maybe they will call him to book. Oga, come and report. So, Oga now will be called back home.
No be lie. Nabaga no one come back. Now so all of them and then their hand inside the wahala. Okay. We will move to Ghana, the land of Osajifo, Kwame Nkrumah. Here we are not discussing Kwame Nkrumah today, but the Presbyterian Church proposed a 3-year jail term for LGBTQI+. I say, they think you're getting long, my man. Before our first our LGBT, then LGBTQI, then there is plus. Okay. So the Presbyterian Church proposed a 3-year jail term for these guys. This LGBTQ up now plus an I added to it. Their issue is like it's not going away. It's in the throat of African politicians, and they have to find ways of social issue that have come, and they have to find a very reasonable, logical, and cultural response to it. But I think they are trying to politicize it, and that's where it will be interesting. If you politicize it, remember our politicians are funded by Europeans. People are not aware. Many of your parliamentarians, let me tell you today, wherever country you find yourself in Africa, those your senators and all, they don't vote because of the way what you want. They vote based on the people that fund them. So if, for example, an NGO wants certain thing to pass in your country, they will fund that bill and they will make sure those senators get some pocket change. They will vote for that. That's how they've been operating. That's how they've been passing a lot of bills in favor of NGO. So this thing has also happened in Ghana when this anti-LGBTQ bill came up. Ghanaians thought that they would throw it out of the window, but it was not that easy. They found out that most of their senators were funded by some European organization, and they found out that the bill got stuck in their neck. Now they are calling on churches for the rescue, and then churches now and mosques, they are coming in and say, look, you have to give 3. I don't think the church has the power to propose this. I don't think it is their responsibility to propose this. Okay. So what do you think about this, Edward?
I think you rightly stated. To me, this is more or less a failed system, maybe a slap in the face of our politicians who have overlooked our cultural setting, our African moral setup, maybe for some free cash from the West. We all know the church, except otherwise, if the church has a power into a country like what the Catholic type of power the Catholic have in Democratic Republic of Congo, where their government home base in Kinshasa. Now we are having it is Etienne Tshisekedi as their leader. This is a very laughable situation. We all know, I think when it comes to passing law, it should be our MPs, our member of parliament, because we elected them to defend us. One, at the same time, they should also maintain our tradition. Our culture should not be tampered with. And certain things that are not normal to our society, they should not impose them on us. But we are seeing gays and lesbian activities on a very high scale into Africa. And I'm not saying the church can serve as a pressure group, maybe to use one of the MPs to come out with kind of like this could be like a public bill to propose it because it's affecting the African moral conscience. And unfortunately, Africans think that we think that we are too religious because religious mentality is one of the main reason why we are mentally colonized into Africa. Our religion cannot make us, because of our Muslim and Christian ideology, cannot make us to think purely African. Because everything we do we think that it should be related to either being a Christian or either being a Muslim. So if you're either being a Christian or Muslim, you think it's a sexual ideology, meaning you cannot think outside what an European think. I mean, what a European think, cannot think outside that. So a church per se does not have that legal obligation to what propose a bill into parliament, except if I'm saying, except in places like Democratic Republic of Congo, where you have the Catholics so powerful. If you do not negotiate and accept whatever they tell you, you can definitely go. Maybe Martin Fayulu lost the election to Tshisekedi when they think that the Catholic Church cannot compromise with him. So overnight, the like of Kabila and Tshisekedi came together. Martin Fayulu was deprived of his legally won seat and given to what Tshisekedi. So the church is just serving as a pressure group. But this is an insult to the Ghanaian parliamentarians, because they are throwing our reputation into the mud. Because if Ghana is one of African powerful country, because in terms of development, especially for West Africa, they are one of the few standard democracy that we can count into West Africa. And if they are not legalizing this thing, and the church is proposing 3 years jail time, then what is the work of our MPs, our member of parliament, or have a representative? Are they just collecting money for nothing? It is not the moral responsibility of the church is to come out with certain things that are not in compromise with the society. But they shouldn't be the one. Okay, tell me, which ordinary member will go into parliament to propose a bill? It is not their responsibility. The church is just like making a pressure group campaigning, maybe trying to wake. These guys are actually in slumber. It's a disgrace to our own African. Let's speak like African. This is a disgrace to our own moral consciousness. Even apart from being, because gays is a mentality of Christians, not a mentality of any Muslim ideology. That is why they are imposing it. They are using the Christian volume into Africa and into the Western world to impose it on Africa.
Yeah.
Why can't we do Africa? This is really, really a laughable situation, and the church should not be taking the lead role. They should be what? Serving as a backup. They should help campaigning to the society, but they shouldn't be taking a lead role. They do not have that legal obligation. They have the moral obligation, but they don't have the legal right. Accept the fact that they have the moral obligation to condemn it, maybe offer some solution, but they do not have the legal right. So if our so-called Ghanaian politicians are seated over there, they cannot do anything. Maybe it's a slap in the face, and even anything like that may definitely not yield any dividend, because it is not coming from anywhere where they may have the government stamp on it to say today this one become a law.
Right. I agree with you 100%. This LGBT issue, we've told Africans over and over, this is a cultural, social issue. And I think it should not become a government issue and put it on an agenda and be discussing it. Look, if you don't want certain social values in your country, there are ways to censor them. Media and what have you, you block certain things that you don't want. Like, for example, in some other country, they will say certain things on our media, we censor it. We don't want this to be played on our media. We don't want it to come to our society. But if you on the Facebook, certain countries, certain things are censored on Facebook because they don't want their society to start discussing it. But you cannot open the door with Western media and allow all this information to flow in. Then when it flow in, now it began to affect your society. Then now you are calling on religious leaders to come and then put on draconian law. They are even trying to even tell you how many years someone should spend in jail. Look, in as much I am not a supporter of this movement, I don't think religious groups should come and be telling people how many years they should jail people. They should as well tell us how many years we should jail politicians and criminals. They should as well tell us how much we should jail president when he steals our money. They should be able to do that. Crime is not one-sided. You cannot say you have the moral obligation to protect people's sexual life, but then you don't have the moral obligation to protect the entire country from corruption, from what they call it, terrorism that is all following us here and there. So I think the religious organization should go and sit down and go preach to their members. Let them go into their temples and preach. Let the government look at this thing here and approach it as a social cultural issue. How do you stop our society from getting involved in it? You have to find a very constructive way of doing it. All these things you are passing here and there, making it's not going to work. Do you hear any complaint about LGBT in Saudi, in other countries, even into progressive countries? Nobody talked about it. It's not even an agenda. Why? They find a way that it does not become an issue in their society. Like Rwanda, that's the approach of Rwanda. Rwanda said it's not on our agenda. If you want to do it in your bedroom, we are not coming to your bedroom, okay? We don't care. And we are not bringing this to our parliament. We have other issues to discuss. We have economic issues and what have you. All we know is that we are not approving or disapproving any type of sexual orientation. And our court system and what have you only allow male and female marriage. That's all. Now going around passing law and giving other people right to go into other people's bedroom to capture them and beat them on the street and bring them. When you do that, it's going to fail. When you do that approach, it's going to fail. And at the end of the day, another politician will come who will remove all that law, and then you guys will be surprised. So I think they should follow a social cultural issue, demand a social cultural response to put it off. So for me, that's whatever that is, they should think about it. They should bring their intellect, think tank on the board, and know how to solve social issues. You don't go around calling religious people to come and tell you, jail this person, jail this person. The next thing they'll start telling, oh, this person is a witch. We need to jail them. This person is a witch. We need to beat them on the street. So those days are gone. We cannot go back to it. So that takes us to our last point, Edward, because of timing. That's Chad. But you can still say something on Ghana before you move to Chad. So Chad.
Yeah, as you rightly stated, maybe we need to conscientize our people and don't make gays and lesbian an issue. And everybody should understand that they are not welcome into our society and it is not the legal system. So if those churches who are preaching against it, that the same people here have gays and lesbian wedding. Stupid ideology. They are the same people. So maybe it's just a kind of let the religion. I think the religious leader themselves, they should be the one, because most of those weddings take place into their churches. Mm-hmm. So maybe let the politicians tell them first to ban those things happening to their churches. They should go and campaign to their pastors, their own prophetess, their own evangelists, because they are the one tying the knot on these guys.
If I was leading a country and I don't want gay and whatever in my country, believe me, I'm not going around looking for law to punish them. I'm only going to create the school curriculum have to include what is marriage, what is gender, male and female. I will train the educational system for childhood. Children begin to focus that there are only two gender, male and female. I make sure also in the cultural center, the religious center, that message is reiterated in our system. Everything is male and female. To a point, I create that ideology and that culture. That's it. I don't go around passing law. If that person do it, then now we got to kill them or jail them. When you keep doing that, then you will create a hate to a point. There will be a resistance. Every oppression, there will be a resistance. And when resistance comes, the resistance can win. And when it wins, what you don't want, you have to get it now. That's what's going to happen. So we go to Chad. Here we got to spend less than 10 minutes because of time. The government hands over the leader of anti-Balaka rebel group to the ICC. This anti-Balaka, Edward, I know in 2009 when Francois Bozize was in power. He's a Christian. It's in the religious issue again. Francois Bozize, a Christian, was a leader of Central African Republic. Am I correct? Around 2009, 13 or something like that. Then there was an Islamic rebel group called Seleka. So the Seleka were against the president, but they used a religion as a means of revolution. Now, this is something interesting. I will digress a little bit to tell you about some of the reasons why we are saying push Pan-Africanism and not a religious sentiment. Why? You see, the Muslim in the North Africa and other places, they think that when there is oppression on their society, the only way they are going to revolt is through their religion. And they use their religion to revolt against that oppression. Sometimes they themselves become oppressors. And whenever you use your religion as a medium of revolt, you are going to oppress other people who don't subscribe to that religion, even if they are your enemy or not. That's why we need a philosophy in Africa that is not religious, so that it can be able to protect all of us. We cannot use Islam as a revolution because why? When it succeeds, only Muslims will reap the fruit. All of us will become slaves. So go back to Central Africa. The Seleka movement staged a revolution that was Islamic in nature, and they removed Francois Bozize from power. And a new guy took over who was a Muslim, and the rebel group Seleka became successful. So the Christians in the country felt threatened. The revolution did not include them. The revolution did not protect them. So they created anti-Balaka movement to also fight against the Seleka. Then it became a Muslim and Christian war. Then the Balaka now also became oppressors. They were now going to villages also, innocent Muslims, killing innocent Muslims, forcing some Muslims to convert to Christianity. That happened according to the UN report, that they were forcing some Muslims to convert to Christianity, punishing some Muslims, because of their faith. Sometimes those Muslims have nothing to do with the Seleka movement, but they were captured, killed, they were decapitated. Now it became a religious war. So the anti-Balaka leader, I think Chad captured him or something. Edward will enlighten us. Now they are sending him to the ICC. Another failure. I don't want to go into that. How Africans are always, they think that justice comes from the ICC. They don't know that the ICC is a colonial institution, just like the World Bank, just like the IMF. They are there to protect the interests of the West. They are not there to protect the interests of you Africans. If you don't know it, you know it now. They are not there to protect your interest. They don't care about justice in Africa. They only appear to do it because the institution have to be funded. But what they care about is how the European idea will be pushed. When America committed crime in Iraq, no ICC went to America to capture Bush or anybody. You will never try it. So, yeah, you will say that these people committed crime against their own people. I think the government in Central Africa right now should judge him if they can. If they cannot, the African Union should establish a court to judge some people, but not to the ICC. What's your take, Amara?
Well, I can't agree with you more, especially on the last point. I think African justice system is a failed one. I agree the fact that the anti-Balaka movement in CAR or Central African Republic has created more trouble, all because of religious diversity, the mentality of the Western world, how one country to be governed, maybe a Muslim could be evil, Christians to take over, this, that. And when people want to gain their selfish and scrupulous interests, what do? They use religion, because they know that irrespective of who you are, you must be part and parcel of one of these faction, either a Christian or Muslim. And normally when religious war coming, it's very difficult to fight because people think that their religion determine their faith, especially certain Muslims. We think that they are waging what they call a jihad war. It's a religious war. So if they die into it, maybe they will definitely go to heaven. The Christian, they think that if I die in defense of my faith, God will definitely ascend me into heaven. They do not have that kind of jihadist mentality, but also they believe in defending themselves. But I want to throw light on our African justice system. I think we have trained and qualified lawyers in Africa. We have our Attorney General. We have legal system, even called the Supreme Court, and we have our body, like the AU, the African Union has a court on the oath. ECOWAS has a court on the oath. You go to SADC, that the South African Union have their own. If you go into East Africa, they have a court system on their own. Let's assume that Chad is also in the Central African Republic and is part of Central Africa. They have their own organization, they have a court system. So if Chad, if a Chad arrested, Chad is in Central Africa, and Sierra is also in Central Africa, they arrested the rebel leader who has created so trouble. Why send it to Europe? When to even have witnesses to go and testify is a burden. When this trial will be going on, the heinous crime this guy facilitated, either directly or indirectly, are far away in The Hague. That is in Netherlands. It is disappointment, but not a surprise. Because Africans are carrying the mentality that we do not even trust into our legal system. We don't trust our trained and qualified lawyers. We don't even trust into our court system. Hussein Habrik was charged in a what? But it's also what? Look at Chad. Chad, you have Hussein Habrik, also who ruled Chad for quite a long time. Idris Deby arrested him and presented him to Senegal. And Senegal tried him. He was convicted. He died until of late. He died because of what? He lost his life to this COVID-19. Why can't we use our own court instead of always depending on the Western mentality? They may have Fatou Bensouda, who is a Gambian, heading that particular ICC court, but that still does not portray the courts to be in any African nature. I think we need to understand that we have a legal system into Africa. Then also, our court system should be given the opportunity to try cases that are so sensitive like this. We have trained and qualified lawyers. They have managed to set up this system. Why not start utilizing the system? Just because we do not have time, maybe we find another time to dissect on this issue. But honestly speaking, Africans, I am actually in favor of arresting the anti-Balaka rebel leader. I am happy that Chad have done certain things like that. But I am against the decision of Chad sending that particular man to be tried into The Hague. Let's use our African court system to deliver justice. We may say if he's been tried into Central African Republic because of where he's committing his crime, it is into Central African Republic, it may pose regional threat. But that doesn't delete the fact that AU doesn't have a court. Of course, Addis Ababa may be going under other Timor, but they have other court system into Africa. In fact, even Africa, other African countries can be used to try this so-called rebellion. So telling him no in the Hague, in Netherlands to try him is a clear indication that our African leadership is a failed one and we do not even have any justice system. Since we are out of time, maybe it's actually talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edward Amara. Thanks to our viewers. You make a lot of contribution, but our time is up. We won't be able to read the comment again today, so sorry. We appreciate your contribution always. And we also encourage you, if you want to come on this show, to contribute, and you can state your name and tell us, and then drop your email. We will be able to contact you so you can join us here next Wednesday and participate in this discussion. We also appreciate if you're just watching and then coming every Wednesday just to listen to us. We appreciate that as well. So thank you. So we see you again next week, Wednesday. We will be back with latest news from around Africa. Bye-bye.
We are Labira. Labira is our home. Labira people. Our
DJ House of Pain. Yes, I like this one. Him alright, yes, him alright.
Our children, they are future leaders. Our children, they are future leaders. Remember, our children, they are future leaders. When we get where no more, the way they want tomorrow. Remember, our children, they are future leaders. And when we meet, they are our father. They are our father, they are our father in progress. Immorality, 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 immorality.
Yes, what? One I win.
I want you to know they are future leaders for tomorrow. When we get where no more, they will do what tomorrow. And we need, they are our father. They are our father, they are our father in progress. We don't want no more war. One nation Liberia. We don't want no more war Liberia. But I have followed who there is there. Why? They are gone. 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 We can run here around. We can run over war. We can run here around. We don't want no more war. After we suffering too much, after we suffering too much, we want peace. We don't want no more war. Tired dying, tired suffering. All over Liberia, war is everywhere. You know we play Yawa Talent, in Liberia. People suffering too much. We don't want no more war. We don't want no more war. Tired suffering. Liberia, better find common ground. Better find common ground for better Liberia. Find common ground for our children's future. Better find common ground, Liberia. We tired running around. Whether we break down, whether we break down. Tired suffering, tired dying, whether we break down. Malaya follow you there respect, people dying, people suffering. Everywhere they want it, people dying everywhere.
Let's pray for them.
People dying everywhere.
DJ House of Pain, he's gonna help you pray, brother.
We don't want no more war.
Don't give up. Speak your mind.
We don't want no more senseless war.
God will bless us. Tell it as
We
it
don't
is.
want no more war.
Tell the world, brother. It's DJ House of Pain here.